So the presentation that I have is about an hour and 20 minutes, and it's about 21st century talent strategies. So the things that you can do in your companies to appeal to the new generation of workers and to the multi-generation of workers. And so before I start, I just want to get a sense, and I don't know if this is going to be okay with you, but to get a sense of who's in the room. You're here for a reason. I the list to speak, but what do you want to get out of this presentation? I have a ton of content and I can go deeper in certain areas and go more narrow in other areas. So what would you like to walk away with in the next hour and a half? Okay. Mm. You have to give other things. Okay. Good. Great. We have lots. Good. What's your demographic in the Air? It's the Air Force. What's the demographic? Is it mostly young kids or under 30? Okay. Okay, good. What's the average tenure in the Air Force? How long do people usually stay? Wow. And are you seeing that, are you forecasting that even with the younger generation that they're going to stay 20 years? Are you forecasting even with the younger generation that they're going to be in the Air Force for 20 years? Yes? Hmm. Mm. So you don't have a system to transfer the knowledge on an ongoing basis. Mm. Hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand. So what I want you to do today as I'm going through this, if there's things that you want to stop me on and just say, can you get into more detail? Okay, so I'm going to give you a fire hose of information. And also I'm curious as to while you've been here, where have you been? Have you visited any companies? Who? Okay. All right, good. Okay, good. All right, so this is called The Wealth of Talent, and it's really my philosophy. I started in the recruiting business, doing recruiting, and I did that for 20 years, and then the last 10 years, I've been doing organizational development, leadership development, and workforce optimization, which is really about getting the best out of people. And we call the book, I have a book that I'm writing, and we released a mini book, and I'll show you guys how to get that for free on my website. But we called it The Wealth of Talent because what we found when we've studied really well run companies and really successful people is when they maximize their own effectiveness and the effectiveness of their team, they always make more money. they always are happier and they're more fulfilled in their job. And so it's about getting the right people in the right roles, and then removing the barriers, and then having them operate at their maximum effectiveness. Let's see how this is going to go. Okay. So now this is about the U.S. workforce. I don't have the demographics for Chile. So I'm just going to tell you what's going on here, and you can see where it fits or doesn't fit. So currently the mood of the U.S. workforce is we are dealing with an all-time lack of employee engagement. 70% of employees surveyed who work for the biggest and the smallest companies are saying they're checked out in their job. They're there because it's a paycheck, but they don't feel inspired, they don't feel valued, they don't feel appreciated, and they don't feel like they have a path, or they don't believe in the leaders, or they don't feel that what they're doing is a natural self-expression for them. So you have a lot of companies here not hitting their numbers, a lot of people not getting bonuses, a lot of people not doing well. And there's also a changing demographics. We had a baby boom. I don't know if they had a baby boom in Chile, but we have and I'll show you the figures in a little bit, but we have an aging workforce. We have close to 50 million baby boomers retiring, and we don't replace them with enough people until the 25-year-olds. So we have a gap between the millennials and the baby boomers of 50 million deficit of people to go to work. So what you have is the middle-age group people, which is 27, 28, 32, 40. They're in the middle saying, when are you guys going to get out of my way so I can get promoted? And you have the younger people saying, we want to be promoted already right now. And then you have, because there's a shortage of talent, everyone's trying to recruit each other's people. So there's no loyalty. It's very, very hard to do business, A, in California, and B, in the US, and make money. So you see different things like remote workforce, hiring people from different countries. I have a person who works for me from Malaysia. I have another person who works for me from Thailand, because they can work over the internet. So what you're also seeing is, as the cost of living is going up in the US, the wages are not increasing enough. So there's a mass disparity between what it costs to live and operate a family and what kind of increases people are getting. And you're also seeing companies saying, I want a return on investment. I want to know that if I hire you and you and you, I'm going to get a return. But this is what's new. The employees say, if I go work for you and you, I want a return on my investment for my time. So now more than ever, employees are asking for whatever job they take to give them return as much as they give. And it's not about benefits. It's not about the benefits. It's about learning and development. It's about training. It's about coaching. It's about flex time. It's about quality of life. It's not, yeah, they need basic benefits, but people won't quit one job and go to another because they have better benefits. They'll quit one job and go to another because there's more opportunity for advancement. So what we're also seeing is a shift in mindset. The millennials, you guys call them the millennials? And so the millennials expect a lot more. Yeah, let me see if I have, right here. So here we have your millennials. Here we have your Gen Xers right here. The biggest gap of volume of people, this is the age. And then here we have the baby boomers, and here we have the World War II people. These folks are coming into the workforce with their eyes wide open about what they need, about what they want. They want rewards fast. They grew up in the gaming age. They grew up with their first computer by the time they were probably 8. And it's fast, and they can get information. When I lead a program to a group of this age, they're on their iPhone checking everything I'm saying, making sure it's accurate. They want to work with their friends, they want to work with their community, and they want to feel like work is fun. These folks want flex time. They want to raise their family. They want to know that they're being groomed for something bigger. These guys don't want to be groomed. They just want something bigger. These people want to be groomed. These people are starting to say, I'm almost 60. My life is half over. What else is there? So there's a lot of people in our workforce that are deciding right now to be maybe independent, to be consultants, because they want to live life. And so you have, for the first time in the U.S., 3 full generations in the workforce, and then some of these people are still working. And what's most interesting is not that there's 4 different age groups of people. What's most interesting is that they all expect different things. They all need different things, and they were all raised in a time where things were very different than each other. So their view of the world is completely different. These people, oh, what happened? Okay. These people have a global view of the world, no matter where they live. They have a global view of the world. People have a very narrow view of the world, and it's dangerous. This view of the world is not dangerous. It's fun, it's exciting, everything's at my fingertips. And so it's super hard for a 25-year-old to take direction from a 70-year-old who doesn't understand them, or to take direction from a 55-year-old who learned from a 70-year-old and who's very regimented in the way they teach and the way they coach and the way they expect people to work. So I'm going to go back because I want...
How do you deal with that?
We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I will answer that question. Is you find you really train your managers. So y'all are in HR, right? You teach. You're not?
We're all in HR. The specific words are a little quite different between us.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. So I'm going to answer right now very succinctly, and then we'll get into it in more detail. When new managers are getting trained to be managers, I don't know about in Chile, but in the U.S., in the last 15 years, almost every training budget has been canceled. Nobody's spending time and money to train people. They are now, but they weren't 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Because after the big crash, companies got rid of anything in their budget that wasn't an immediate return. So the first thing that companies are doing that want to make a difference in this area is they're doing management readiness training to teach young people how to lead, to teach young people how to understand that it's not just a demographic that's different and an age that's different, but their perspective on life is different. And then also the different personality archetypes, teaching young people to understand that a human being is a complicated thing. And not only is it their demographic, but it's their psychographic. What's important to them? What do they value? What behaviors do they demonstrate in the way they work? What are their competencies? So management training and people readiness is the most important thing companies are doing. Like Google, for example, LinkedIn, and Facebook all installed coaching programs for their workforce in the last 18 months. So in those companies, there's a department called coaching. There never was before, and it's not in HR. It's in talent development. Some of those companies are calling it talent transformation. And at Google, for example, anybody in a key contributor role, anybody who is touching the customer can get coaching whenever they need it. So it's like unbelievable. When I grew up, there was no coaching. There was, you're lucky to have a job and go do it. So I know that was a little longer than a short answer. So I want to talk to you a little bit about people's perspective in the talent acquisition or talent management perspective. Is right now employees have a mindset that they kind of have to take what they can get because the young ones need experience, and the ones that aren't so young have a scarcity mindset because they're nervous that if they don't take what they can get, the young people will take the jobs for them. So the reality is there's lots of jobs open. For engineers and technical people, there's 6 more jobs than there are people to do the work. So for every one candidate, they have 6 job offers in this valley. I don't know if what's going on where you live, but here there's lots and lots of opportunities if people have experience. There's also lots of opportunities if people don't have experience and they're willing to be flexible. So on average, when a company is trying to hire right now, they have to interview 10 people to find one who's a match. Most people give up at candidate number 5. They get tired, they're busy, they got too much else going on, and they miss really great people. And recruiting has gotten extremely complicated with all the advent of technology and all the new solutions. It takes people 3 times as long and expensive to hire people, and that's without paying an agency fee. It's $4,500. So recently, a CPA firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers, does that sound familiar? They interviewed 300,000 companies, and they spoke to the CEO, and the top challenges were, and out of 300,000 companies, 70% said that their biggest challenge was that they didn't think they could find, retain, and engage the right people to do their leadership roles. So suddenly talent is a massive problem. But they didn't say this 3 years ago. So the components that they said that were important to them in people, in talent, is people who've proven results on the position. Not necessarily produced results on the exact same role, but they're results producers in life. They just carry themselves as results producers. That people have the right behaviors. That people have the right skills. They fit in well with whatever role they're doing. That they're a cultural match. They believe in the mission. Like you guys are the Air Force. You want people who believe in what you're doing, who are connected, hopefully. That they can stay. Now, you want 20-year people. So these companies are saying they'd be happy if they got a 3 to 5 year commitment. Upward mobility, that they want to grow and they want to progress, that they're trainable and coachable, and that they're committed. So when you look at most of these, they're intangible traits. You can't touch them. You kind of have to have an x-ray to see if somebody really has all this. Or you have to do a really good job of interviewing. So this is our workforce. And you can find yours. Do you have a Bureau of Labor Statistics? I'm sure you do. You can find your chart. Let's see if you can hear this. How do we? If it doesn't work, that's okay, but. Oh, we unplugged it. Do we need this one? Okay, let's. No, that won't work. Okay, well anyway, it basically just says that people don't like their jobs. So this is the US demographics. There's 15% fewer people in that middle age group than there are baby boomers. And then the older workers, this is people over the age of 68, are going to want to keep working. They need to keep working because their retirement accounts kind of shrunk recession. And we need to find jobs that they can do. And then the young employees, they'll challenge employers like no other generation ever has. They have very, very high expectations. They have very low patience. And they want you to give them a reason to stay. And if you do have a competitive workforce, I would say that even the military, even the Air Force is going to be challenged to getting people to stay because they'll have lots of public available jobs and lots of global available jobs. It depends on the job. So here's what I think. I'm not the end all be all. All the technology companies want younger people because they're technology. But hospitals, everybody's getting older. We have a massive need for health care. They're hiring more mature people. Senior citizen centers is getting old. They're hiring more mature people. So there is a place for everyone. It's all based on supply and demand. But like my mom would never get a job at a high tech company. I might not get a job at a high tech company. But I would never want to go work for a retirement home or a hospital. So, and the other thing is we have opportunities globally for people to work from their kitchen table. You have Elance, Odesk. So this is online employers. You log in and you sign up to be an employee. And you could do everything from receptionist, customer service, data entry, writing, and you work from your kitchen table and they pay you no matter what country you're in. We also have Odesk. We also have TaskRabbit, where if you want your house cleaned, you log into TaskRabbit and you say, I need my house cleaned, or I need my dog walked, or I need somebody to fix my patio furniture. And so you have global opportunities for people to work. I could go to France for a whole summer and get a job with a French family, or Chile, because it's you can also lease out your house, right? You can become a landlord, Airbnb. So there's opportunities for everybody if their mind is open. And so it's really about expanding your perspective. So this is, again, for the U.S. I don't know how it fits for Chile. We have a very volatile stock market every day. It's crazy, changing. Our employment is decreasing. We were at 10% a year and a half ago. We're down to 6.7 across the board. Everybody thinks the economy is getting better, and they're forecasting a 10-year upside, which would be good. We need it. And the baby boomers, the people over the age of 52, are going into a time in their life where they need a lot of money and they're in high consumption. Why? Because their parents are aging, and in many cases they have to help support their parents and they have kids. So in the past, where maybe a person that was 60 years old would stop working, most people aren't going to stop working unless they're wealthy. And this is Jared Bernstein, which is a senior economist. He's saying people aren't happy with their jobs because what I said earlier is the cost of living keeps increasing, but they don't have anything more in their pocket. And they keep seeing the rich get richer, 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 and the poor, poor, poor. So now let's talk about something that's universal in no matter where you live and where you work, and that's workplace psychology. There are some people who go to work every day in body, but their spirit stays home, their mind stays home. I'm sure you guys experience this in your line of work. They keep showing up because there's a steady paycheck, but you can't really get them to participate. Warm chair attrition. There's corporate cocooning, which is somebody in a senior level job protecting themselves and not sharing. They're not coaching, they're not mentoring, they're not giving information. And that's pretty dangerous when they have to train the next group of people. Life work navigation, the two younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Xers, want a quality of life. They want to be, the younger kids want to hang out with their friends. The young parents want to be at their kids' games. The battles. They see what's happened to the people older than them, that they worked, and they were not part of the family unit, and they want their family back. And most people are not loyal to the enterprise. They might stay, but they're not loyal. And the other thing that I don't have on here is many people, no matter where they live, have sources of income. So they have their full-time job, and then they're moonlighting on the internet or doing something else, whether it's direct sales like selling jewelry or cosmetics, or they're doing some work on one of those sites that I mentioned. So most people have multiple ways to make money. And there's a big push to stay marketable. Get more skills, get more skills, get more experience, get more training, so that happens to their job, they can still have more that they can do. So we talked about this a little bit. These are the reasons people are not happy with their jobs. They feel like they're not satisfied with the work. They're not using their talents. 46% says their workload has increased and they're not getting support to deal with it. 33% feel they don't have anywhere to go. 78% of the people, and these were managers, saying they feel like they're coping with burnout. 56 aren't happy they're working with their company, and 63% don't trust their manager. Tired, overwhelmed, exhausted. So the other thing that's happening, as I said, a lot of companies threw away their training budget. They stopped investing in people. So when you go into many companies, you see people that are promoted to managers who don't have any experience as managers. They don't think they're capable of being a manager. Nobody taught them how to be a manager, and now they're managing. And a lot of the young that have that kind of person as their manager don't want to grow up and become a manager. So that's the dearth of leadership, like the atrophy. Is that what you're asking? It's like atrophy of it. It's incapability. So people are getting promoted to jobs because they're the last person standing. Oh, you're promoted, you're here, you're a manager now. And they're not training them. And then the Peter Principle, have you heard of the Peter Principle? People get promoted to their highest level of incompetency. So somebody's really good at being a mechanic, and they make that person manager of all the mechanics. They were a really good individual contributor. They're not a good manager. So now they're in a job they don't like. They're not doing well in that job, and their performance goes down across the board, because if you don't feel good about yourself, you don't do very good.
A good mechanic and
That's
gain
right.
a bad.
That's right. That's the Peter Principle. And the young people, we don't make it sound exciting enough for young people to want to lead. It doesn't look fun. They see that the managers are working tons of hours, and they see that they're not getting a whole lot of fulfillment in their spirit from doing that. Now, there's some really great leaders. Typically, they're not created. The company got lucky that they're there. Back, when we got out of our Second World War, there were management training. There were leadership training. In the 60s and 70s, there was a lot of leadership development. IBM in the 80s had an IBM management readiness program. They put 100,000 people through that program. All of that's been dismantled. Now they have to start it again. This is basically just saying that there's a global push to hire people that live everywhere. 17 million independent contractors in the U.S. today, which means 17 million people are not available for full-time jobs because they're working out of their house. So they have options. 1 in 9 of every employee in the U.S. works in a customer-facing role. In China, 1 in 10. In India, 1 in 11. So soft skills, intangible skills are required in all these jobs, but nobody's training. So the biggest issue that I see with the talent strategy is the talent deficit. Companies don't have a way to get people up and trained and moving to the next level. Talk about globally, this is in every continent, every country, what drives people. The survey came back that one of the things that drove people more than anything was that they're attached to the vision of the company. They want to be part of the movement, whatever the movement is. If it's Whole Foods, you guys have you've been to Whole Foods here? Well, it's organic food. All the farming is organic. Farmers are paid a fair wage. People on the Whole Foods movement are on a movement, and they don't fall from that. And Whole Foods has an excellent track record for hiring and keeping employees, and it's retail. Nobody can do that. Whole Foods did that because they have a mission. Google, strong mission to be the innovators in the world. So people want to be attached in their heart to what the company does. They want to know they have a future. Can you give him the?
It's like share the
Share
me
this aligned with the vision. Yes.
okay.
So you're in the Air Force. What's your mission? What's the Air Force's mission?
Well, in a few words, protect our country.
Okay, great.
But if I share the same thing, I will be motivated working on it.
Yeah, so it's you. Let's say you put protect our country at the top. What are all the things that go into protecting the country? And you create statements that are compelling so people can be aligned with them. So maybe protect our country by making sure that I don't know that the Air Force would do that, but it's not just about defense, right? It's also about offense, right? About being proactive. So maybe for somebody, they hear protecting the country means that I have to be my best person so that I can take care of my community. Maybe other people here protect the country by taking care of the infrastructure and that we're safe from storms, and like we're going to get a big storm here in the next couple days. Maybe other people here protect our country in a different way, but you find ways to communicate so when you're young people can see themselves in that mission. And second to that, they want to know what their future is. So, yep.
An internal comment. This is something we don't aprovechamos. No, we don't. Yes. We need to some focus on
Yeah,
this kind
because in the past, people were products, human capital, look at what they call it, products to get work done. Now, people are human beings. They've always been human beings, by the way. People are human and they want more. If you want them to give you everything, they got to feel connected to what you're up to. And so it also starts with creating their future from the day they start. They need to see a path. They need to see where they're going, and they need to be reminded of where they're going. And they need to be reminded of how important their role as a mechanic is to making sure people get to where they're going and they can go do their job. But we assume people get it. We assume they connect the dots to connect the dots for them. And the best speakers, the best CEOs, the best companies that have engagement, like Barack Obama. I know people are mad at him right now, but he won an election with no experience, and he won it over the internet. And you know that, right? He won it because he created a vision that everybody bought into. He was a storyteller. So you have to find a way to tell your story for the Chilean Air Force that people hear themselves as characters in that story, and they want to participate in that story. It's very powerful. It's kind of the power of the human spirit. So people also want to know that they can be good parents, good citizens, good children, good siblings, good lovers, good spouses, and be good at their job. Specifically with the older workers, they traded job for family. They traded job for happiness. They traded job for life. The new group of people want it all. They want it all. They want a great job. They want a great family life. They want a great marriage. They want great kids, and they want to go on great vacations. Safety is important, I'm sure. For you all, safety is very important. It's rated in the top 10 things globally. So you had an issue with mines a few years back, right? The way that was handled gained a lot of global affinity because of how that was handled and how people came together. Mining is all over the world very, very dangerous. And one of the things the mines are working on is how do they make their job safer for people. Otherwise, the young people don't want to do that kind of work. Excitement. I don't care what they're doing. They want to be passionate about it. They want to feel like there's a challenge, like there's a charge, like it's exciting. They're doing something cool. It might not be cool for you or you to do that job, but you have to find a way that whether they're a pilot or a mechanic or they're an HR clerk or they're answering the phones, that it's exciting for them. People want to feel that if they're at work 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, that's 70% of their waking hours, that they enjoy themselves doing that work. They want to trust their leadership. And part of trusting leadership is transparency, it's full communications, it's this is where we're headed, this is what's going on, this is what's not working, this is what is working. But the young people, I don't know about our government has gained a lot of lack of respect in the last couple years, especially from the young. Many of them did not go out and vote a month back because they're disgusted because they all voted and then things didn't happen. So they want to know that they can trust whoever's running the organization or their direct manager. You can teach your managers authentic leadership, transparency skills. You can teach them to be the kind of people that their employees will respect. And a lot of it comes from just being real. You know, I'm sure you've seen some of these movies out there where the leader says, yeah, I'm scared, but we're going to do it anyway. Much more respect for that kind of leader than the leader who says, I'm not scared, this is easy, and they're all scared. Recognition. They want to be recognized for individual contributions. Not just we all did it, we're all great, but Javier, thank you. Because of you, this project went off on time. Everybody was satisfied with it. And this is the difference you made for your department. This is the difference you made for the company. And this is the difference you made for the community. People want to know how what they do impacts their bigger world. Often when we compliment people, we say, you did a great job. And we think we did good because we gave somebody a compliment. But it's superfluous. They want to know exactly what they did, how it impacted this group, this group, this group, and that it matters to you that they did that. A lot of this is simple, right? It's simple, it just takes effort. They want to know that you care about your customers. So in your case, your citizens. They want to know you actually really do care about them. And they want this is in the top 10 of global drivers of engagement. And they want to be respected. So often military has a bad reputation for not showing respect to people. Screaming at them in public and humiliating them in public. That's changed a lot here. And it's changed by filing lawsuits. But it's also changed because people weren't going in. The military in the U.S. has many less people applying to go in than they ever have had before. It doesn't seem so they're spending all this money on advertisements to recruit people and, you know, be the Marines and go in and save your community, and the National Guard is spending big bucks on ad campaigns. But it's not just that. Once they get in, they need to feel like they're in a good place and they're cared for and they're not just obstacles or resources for people. So before I go further, I want to know if there's any questions about the global drivers of engagement.
Would you think that best employee of the month is a good way of recognition, for example?
I think it's a good recognition, but I think you have to be much more specific recognizing them for. What made them the best employee of the month? How did that impact their overall department, the overall company, the overall community that you serve? I think it's great, but I think you need to give them a bigger reason so that if I'm standing there watching, what's your first name? If I'm watching Luis get an award, I say, I want that award next time. As an observer, rather than being jealous that Luis got it, I want to be inspired that I want to be that too. You can keep the reward and the award, but you want to make it real specific and have it have meaning and purpose. Not just here's a flower, or here's $100, or here's a Starbucks coffee card. You did a good job. Good question. Any other questions on that? Yeah, so you put a person in that job who loves to serve people, and then you give them an opportunity to serve people while they're answering phones. So instead of just answering the phones and transferring the call, maybe you give them more questions to ask, and so they can route them to the right person or come up with a solution. But you have enough people to choose from when you're putting people in jobs. Put a person in that job who actually likes people. If they don't like people and you have them answering the phones, they're never going to be happy. Does that make sense? Okay. Is that a question or a statement?
That's why I was asking for an example in that case.
Oh, so you want an
Of that.
example of how
O
to,
lo que tú
okay,
quieres es un
so
ejemplo acerca de cómo hacerlo
let's
más
say
exitoso.
on the switchboard or whatever you call it, they're answering phones.
Digamos que una persona que está
I
para
would look at what
los teléfonos,
other
yo diría,
projects they can
¿qué
do
otros
there
proyectos?
and how can take those, what else they can add on to what they're doing to serve those people. And ask them, what else do you want to do? What else, how can I make your job more exciting? So the interesting thing about this whole presentation is your answers lie with your employees. Ask them. I have a survey. It's called a survey, but yes. Not like an online survey, it's an interview. And you talk to people and you say, what do you love about your job? What do you hate about your job? What barriers are in your way of doing your work? If you were in charge, what would you change? How could I make your job more exciting? How can you make your job more exciting? And lots more questions. You send me an email and ask for it. I'll write down my I call it the retention interview. The reality is it's also an engagement interview because you're wanting to know how you can serve people better. But often the answer is so simple. It's like, is anybody in this room married? You are. Okay. No? Yes? So if you want to know how to make your wife happy, you ask her. Right? So we talked about this already. I don't want to waste your time talking about turnover because you want to spend more time on the things that matter. So what I do about is equity, tenure equity, and I think you were alluding to this earlier. When a person is in a job that is highly complex, like a pilot, and they have been in the job a long time and it's a hard job, as long as the challenge is there, they're engaged. As soon as they're no longer challenged, their production goes down. And so one of your jobs is to track people. Let's say they're in the job for 2 years and it's very complex, and But after 2 years, it's not complex anymore. It's average, average. You want to find a pivot point to give them more responsibility and a new level of challenge so you can keep the smart and engaged people, you can keep them smart and engaged. So you have to really look at these jobs and start interviewing people doing that, especially people doing the job 5, 6, 7 years, and find out at what point do you become same old, same old? At what point does the job get stale? So you can put a system in place to interrupt that staleness and give them new challenges or projects to work on. But most people, once they learn the job, they're producing and active in production for a couple years, and then it dwindles, most normal human beings. And so it's the experience, the skill, and the complexity of the position. Another way to look at it is they're saying the complexity of a job of a fast food worker, somebody working in your kitchen, is very low level. So if they want that kind of job and they'll be happy in that kind of job, that's a different issue than a pilot, right? But what happens is your A players, your people who are your highest performers, will get bored sooner than your C players. And so those are the ones you have to really focus on. And how do you keep them? What are the jobs that are the most valuable to the organization? Pilots, maybe it's other than pilots. And talk to those people. On the same token, I'm not saying don't worry about the fast food worker, but let's say you have a series of jobs that are low complexity. So what other jobs do you have in the Air Force besides somebody working in the kitchen that are low complexity? Waitress? Administrative assistant? Okay, good. So, and you may already have this, but you want to look at what career path could you have for people with a lower complexity of work? Because you still need them. They still need to be happy, but you can track them. And you can also, do you guys do assessments in the military where you're testing people's intelligence and their organizational skills and things like that? So you look and see what are they capable of and what else can they do and where can we move them around. So this is where we were talking about the stay interviews. Now this is for the purpose of eliminating turnover, but if you don't have a lot of turnover and this is solely about engagement, you talk to people face to face. You set up interviews with your best performers and you find out, what do you like about working here? What don't you like about working here? What do you like about your manager, the leadership team? What do you like about the training? What don't you like? When people turn down, do you ever have anybody turn down the opportunity that say they don't want to join? Find out why. Why are they declining? When your recruiters are talking to people, why are they saying no? I had a call once from someone and she said, we thought you were going to take the job. Why didn't you take the job? And when I told her why I didn't take the job, I found out because I have a friend working there, they changed that policy. I was the 10th person who declined the job because of that. And it was a simple little thing. It was about territories. But you can do surveys, you can do emails, you can have focus groups, and you can do face-to-face. The best way to find out how you can have a culture change is to ask your folks. And make sure whoever's leading that conversation has the Air Force's best interest in mind. Like you don't want a defector or a bad attitude person leading that conversation because it will go south. And this is just the cost of turnover when people leave. Do you have people leaving in their first couple years? So is it a big enough number to concern you? productive is a good word. And then they leave. And does that ever happen? Do you know why? And do you have any, is there ever like a common denominator? You're like, wow, the last 10 people left because of this reason. Mm. Yeah. Because the hours? Yeah, so one of the things that you may want to do is start to figure out the people who make it in maintenance, the people who like maintenance. What are their common denominators? What do they have as part of their makeup that keeps them happy there, that makes them stay? And start to learn not to put other people in that job, or check in with people more often. How's it going? So if you've got somebody who's on the bubble, maybe you move them out of maintenance in somewhere else. Because it's expensive to have them there for 2 years, right? And then to have them leave. So part of doing these surveys would be checking in with people often during their incubation period. And by incubation, it's more than the first 60 days. It's like the first 2 years while they're being hatched, while they're learning and growing. But not everybody can handle pressure. All people are not created equal. Some people thrive off of it. Some people, it's overwhelming. So you can start to find out, what are the common denominators among the best pilots? What are the common denominators among the best maintenance people? What are the common denominators amongst the best phone people? What are the common denominators amongst the best managers? And you could learn out of that, what can you train and what can't you train to? They just have to have it. And you can also find out, okay, 40% of everybody who leaves because they have to be perfect in this mechanic job. Can't have people making mistakes in that department. Maybe people, if they knew that up front, they wouldn't say yes to that job, because they know that that's not who they are. They're okay with doing average. So I think some of it comes with analyzing the information. The cost for typical turnover, people say, is anywhere from 3 to 6 times. Harvard says it's 3 to 6 times the person's salary. So if you're paying somebody $50,000 a year, plus all the goodies, the benefits and everything else, if they leave, it could be $200,000 to $300,000 worth of cost because they left. Now, if you start looking at it like every person that leaves is a $250,000 loss to us, you'll change how you put them in those jobs. You'll intervene more often earlier on and move them into a different role if it's not a good fit for them. So here we have Harvard says it's 3 to 6 times. Saratoga says it's double of what you pay them. Bliss Gately says it's 1.5 times. And Gallup organization said it's between 44 and 244%. It's high. So 2/3 of all hiring decisions, the hypothesis is, could be mistakes, and that's because the person took the job for the wrong reason, or they were hired for the wrong reason. They took the job because it sounded like a good idea. They were hired because they seemed like the right person, but then when they got in, it wasn't a really good fit. They didn't really like it, but they stayed because the benefits were really good, or they thought they could get promoted. And so what happens is people know people make the choice that they're in the wrong job between 1 month and 1 year on the job. How often are you checking in with your new recruits? Are you meeting face to face with them? Are you doing a quality check? Are you happy you came before you keep investing money in them? So, why are you guys laughing? Yeah, so how long ago was the Chilean Air Force created? 83 years old. So it's an 83-year-old organization. So the leaders who created the Chilean Air Force are how old now? They're dead. But you can see that it's old management mentality. They have structures in place. It's like the U.S. government. Structures in place that worked for a different group of people. Now you have a whole new group of people who know, and back then, 83 years ago, were there global opportunities for employment? No. Was there an internet? Was there high-tech companies? No. So you have an 83-year-old organization with probably 50 to 60-year-old processes or 83-year-old processes for a 21st century workforce. So you have to put stuff in to change it, or what will happen is you'll still always get talent, but you won't.
That this is your job. If you don't like it, that's the door.
Yeah, that's the mentality. That's you're lucky to have a job, not we're lucky to have you.
So, what's your proposal to make the change?
Well, unless it's affecting your ability to achieve your objectives, unless it's affecting financially, like if you're losing money, you have to, whoever's in charge, who's in charge? Do you have like a head person, a general? Unless that person sees that it's a problem, it won't change. I mean, you guys are here to learn. You're all young. You're going to come back with ideas. We're going to talk about that next. Actually, we'll progress to that. But unless the general, is that what the head person is called? Unless the general sees that it's a problem, or the CEO sees this is impacting me financially, I'm not people. If we have a war, we're not going to be able to win it. Our planes are not working like with the U.S. government. Clinton cut all the military spending, and then the guy after him said, oh, we need more military. And now Obama's like trying to reinstitute things, changing it, because in order to attract the younger generation, they have to have something sexy to offer.
And do you think that maybe in a small department, can we try to make
Yes.
little changes?
Yeah, pilot.
Even though the higher department don't see it that way, maybe you can try to do it in.
Yes, so they call that a pilot program. And this is interesting because we work with a lot of companies that the manager implements a pilot. And they're doing it for the company, but they're also doing it for them because that's what they want. And they know that it's better for their department. There'll be a better run to do that. So we'll talk about that. But if you want to make a institutional change at a big institution, that person has to feel the pain. They have to feel the pain. So when you don't have people to promote, then you don't have people to promote. If you have like for you all, you probably have a lot of senior pilots who are going to retire in the next 5 or 10 years, right? Most government companies, most utilities in our country and even globally are losing a lot of their employees because they're just getting older. So that's a really good case to say, how are we going to get the younger people? They have many more options. They could go anywhere and work and make the same thing we're paying them. So how are we going to get them to say yes to us? What they did in the utilities industry, the energy, this whole clean energy is attracting a whole new group of 20-somethings to utilities industry because it's cool and it's turbine and all that other stuff. So let's talk about what you can do. 6 of the top 10 trends are directly related to finding people and hiring them and keeping them. So if this is interesting for you guys, see I put that picture, but if people are the fuel for your engine, your military engine, you have to look at how you're going to get people to be happy in what they're doing, to be engaged, to help you do what you want to do with strategy, and to increase their performance. We say add some steps to your onboarding process if you can, add some steps to your hiring process so that when people say yes to you, they're being placed in the right position for them so that they're excited early on. And if you can't put them in the right position because you need these slots filled, find out what's important to them as a person and give them what they need, not in terms of extra benefits, but maybe extra attention, extra time, extra training, so that they're more engaged. So people, what's important to people is that they get to use their strengths on their job. What's important to people is that they get to be themselves and they get to use their natural behaviors and that they get to achieve. They get to win in the position. They want to have their values and their needs be met at work. For me, I might want recognition. For you, you might want time off. For you, you might want to learn more. So find out what's important to them. Find out how they respond to stress and pressure. There's this whole emotional intelligence thing. And the emotional intelligence, are you familiar with that all, EQ? So if I view people partners with me in getting my work done, I have a very different perspective than if I view people as obstacles. If I view rules and regulations as a great way to get things done, I have a different perspective on rules and regulations than if I view rules and regulations as a barrier. If I view rules and regulations as a barrier, maybe I need to be in a sales job, but not in a compliance job. Same thing for stress. Look at stress as a welcome opportunity. I'm probably good for a high stress job as a mechanic or in the emergency room. People coming in bloody. But if I view I can't handle it, it makes me crazy, my head spins, then I get sick in that job. I get physically sick. So that's all about emotional intelligence. There's something in our brain called an amygdala, and it's part of our neuro pathways. When our amygdala gets threatened, and we either charge forward, which you want that guy covering you in war, or you run away and hide. You don't want that guy covering you in war. So the more you get to know about your candidates, what do they want to do during the day? What do they like doing? What do they want to spend their time? And what are their goals? And how can whatever job you give them today help them achieve their goals down the road? And then in the jobs, how do you measure performance in the jobs that you're looking to fill? Like, how do you measure performance in a waitress? How do you measure performance in the person answering the phone? How do you measure performance for mechanics? Much easier for mechanics, no error rate. But do you have them all defined? Do you have all your performance indicators for your jobs defined? And when people say yes, do they know how their performance will be evaluated? Because they want that. They want that transparency. So this is where it all starts, and it's basically committing, whether it's your department or whether it's your business unit or whether it's your group or whether it's the whole Chilean Air Force, is adopting a talent mindset, saying we know in order for us to be the best enterprise, we have to take care of our people, because that's all we have. Yeah, you have planes, yeah, you have machinery, yeah, mission, and you have weapons, but if nobody's running those weapons or anything, it's all going to be computers. And if that's the approach, that's okay, but typically you do need people operating those computers. So the competitive advantage is having the best people at every level in your company. The best darn person serving up food that you can find. The best person doing mechanic that you can find. I like my job, the job likes me, and I'm well respected. So it starts with, and you have a very specific way that you hire people right now. There's a very specific process. Does it work? What are some of the things that don't work?
We have a it's not active process to looking for the right person.
You're
We
waiting
just
for them to
receive.
come to you.
Yes.
So there's no proactive recruitment, no campus. You're not going out to the colleges and talking. Okay, that's a problem. So you can fix that. What else?
Well, we don't save the information of the people that we don't recruit.
So you people come in, but you don't have any record for who
Yes.
came in, and
So every search, every recruit is a new start.
oh boy, yeah. So that's. And how are you evaluating them to see if they can come and work with you?
That's another problem. We don't do it. Just just the regular qualification system for the entire organization. So just if the person is good qualified, we assume that the hiring process was right.
Good. Okay. Well, that's not good, but it's good that you know that. So one of the things that our government is starting to do is assess people for the right job fit. What's the right fit? Is the fit mechanic? Is the fit human resources? Is the fit customer service? Where does Margaret belong? Where does Luis belong? You're going to get into the Air Force, but in what capacity? What are your top skills? What are your behaviors? What's important to you so that you can get them in a good, like a glove, that they fit with. So maybe that's an option for you. Also asking unique interviewing questions about what's important to them. So changing it up a little bit. Getting a tracking system for candidates is easy. I background that I come from, it's not hard. There's 50 companies on global tracking, but the good news is if you keep track of your candidates, you liked somebody but they turned you down, and you haven't, you can email them every quarter or every year to say, hey, how's your civilian job going? Would you like to join the military? You're like marketing to people. And then, of course, campus, you need a campus recruiting strategy for sure, because there's a ton of young people coming out there, and all they know about the military is what their parents told them and what their friends told them. They don't know about your military. So whenever you're hiring these folks, you want to know how to keep them engaged in the job, how to hire more people who will win, and how to build your bench so you have people going up through the ranks. What are you doing to position the Chilean Air Force as a place people want to work? Are you doing ad campaigns? Are you, going for interviewing your people that have been there a long time and doing campaigns telling people how great it is? Okay.
And when the Air Force participate in kind of programs to help people, we go to an island far away from our country, Isla de Pascua, and we do a medical operator.
Okay.
Then those kind of work are published in newspaper.
Yeah, so you're getting public relation
Yes.
kudos, and then someone could say, oh, I want to work there because they do that. So you might want to take, when things are published in the newspaper, you create a whole collage campaign where it speaks to people who want to help people.
also when we do international exercise, for example, journalists from all the countries, so they can make some reports, and their reports get through the entire medias. Those kind of things that the most common ways to position the Air Force.
Yeah, so when you're doing all that, you
But-
want to, sorry,
But I'm sorry, but we're not doing as an employer.
right, I know.
You know, we do it as an institution. So
It's published, it's public affairs.
yes,
So the secret is everything you do for public relations and everything you do for marketing is everything you do for recruiting. And if you take a look at some of the U.S., specifically the Navy and the Air Force commercials, they're and the public or the National Guard, they're very well done. Have you seen any of those commercials? I'm like, I want to join the National Guard. They're very, very well done. They've spent tons of money on their advertising because it wasn't. They were getting the drug addicts. They were getting the criminals to apply. They weren't getting people who would go work at Google. And they realized that if they are advertising to this level of person, that's who they're going to get. If they want to advertise to this level of person, they have to compete. So if you are an employer, you have to compete for the best talent. And the people who want to help other people and be part of something big will sign up. And the goal is to get as many people applying as possible, because then you have a choice. Then you have a choice. Okay, any questions on this before we move on? I didn't give you much time. Anything? Okay. All right, so a strategic approach to talent acquisition is what plants the seeds so you can grow. So, hiring, establish and write out your mission for the Air Force and for every department. Have the head of that department write out, would somebody want to work here? What are you up to? And then share that with candidates when you ask them to pick which place they would want to work. What's the culture in that department? What do you expect in that role, in those roles, in terms of performance, in terms of pressure, in terms of output? Because if you give people choices, they may not choose the wrong job. They might take the wrong job because they think that's the only way to get in. What is it like to work on that team? What's the dynamics of that team? What works about that department? And obviously we talked a little bit about diversity with recruitment and campaigning and campus and advertising, but you want to bring in a wide variety of people. Do a deep dive interview to find out why somebody would come and work for you. If they're only coming because of the paycheck and the stable benefits, they won't be happy. They need to be coming for something bigger. And then find out patterns of success and achievements and give yourself an opportunity. You're not going to hire everybody, right? Give yourself an opportunity for why did you pick Joe or Jose? No, not you, but like I was using a name, but I figured Jose is better than Joe. Why would you pick Jose over Miguel? What is it that you were looking for that Miguel didn't make the cut? Jose feels he was hand-picked for a very important, no matter what kind of job that is, but it was important for him. He's excited to take that job. He didn't settle to go work for the Air Force. Like, you can position the Air Force as an elite opportunity. Any of the jobs there as an elite opportunity. So we really do, specifically for your challenge jobs like mechanic, what other jobs are very challenging over there?
Very stressful job and very important job for the final mission, and
Air traffic control, yeah, that's tough.
it's very stressful, even more than civilian air control.
So it sounds like you have to have something in your hiring process that predicts a person's ability to handle stress. Because stress will implode a person. If they can't handle it, you can't coach them to handle it.
Yes, but the people who does those kind of job, it's very young. They get into the Air Force, an air control. They get into the Air Force at 17 years, 18 years old. At that age, they can know how will be face the stress that's going to be in their job.
That's not true. You can.
It's a question.
Yes. Yeah, no, you can. Yeah. You ask the and you can I don't know what your rules are about testing, but you can test for that totally. You can test for somebody whose stress consumes them and makes them a nervous Nelly. But yeah, their ability to handle stress. I can give you, if you send me an email, I'll give you this leadership assessment. It will tell me exactly how you handle stress. And when you see the results, you're going to be like, how did you know that? It's called axiology. It tells you how somebody looks at the world and how they look at I look at stress as exciting, and I have since I've been 19 years old. We don't change much in our life unless we have a disastrous situation. Other people look at stress as all-consuming and they can't handle it. It's the same person who goes to work in the emergency room with people dying, right? There are doctors that go all the way through med school, and then they do their internship or whatever it's called, residency, and they quit because they can't handle the pressure in the ER.
The way of the people deal with the stress change with the years, change with the age of the people.
Well, maturity has you learn to do different things with your stress. But if you don't like stress, if stress makes you sick, there's something about your wiring that was there when you were 21 that's still there that when you were 50. So right now I'm learning to do meditation. I still respond to stress the same way. I respond a little more mature than I did before. I'm not totally different. But you can have stress management classes. But if somebody doesn't want to work under stress and pressure, I don't care what age they are, they're not going to change that. And if they're young and they want to work under stress and pressure, and then one day they decide they don't want that stress and pressure anymore, then typically it's because something happened in their life that.
Yeah, but I mean, some people can be good with the stress when they are young, when the only stress issue of their life is their job.
Right, then they have kids.
They have then they have kids, then they have a wife, responsibility, as entire system that he has to support. So maybe we added stress less than their job. So maybe the same people who love the stress when they are young, maybe they cannot have a stressful job because they have stress in their life.
Yeah, so I think with that situation, I think it's a training for how to balance it all. Honestly, don't think people go from loving stress to hating stress. I think they have to mitigate the stress. But if you're good with stress, and that's part of the core of who you are, you have an adrenaline rush when you have that stress, and then you get more and more things going on. That's a training opportunity, I think. But I think people are wired a certain way. I just do. And when I show you the assessment, any of you that want to take it, people are wired a certain way. They have certain values. They have certain behaviors. They have certain response to the universe around them, to the world around them. And you put all that together, and that's a whole person. And if you have somebody who's very, very rigid and they like their life orderly, chances of them being good in a high stress, crazy environment, they can fake it for a little while, but they're never going to like it long term. So I think it's more of they either were never cut out for it in the first place, or they just need training. But mostly you drastically in your life unless something drastic happens to you. You know, if you go to battle, if you're in a car accident, if you're diagnosed with cancer, then your behavior may change, your values may change, your outlook may change. But most people, if you interview 100 people, in their lifetime, they may mature, but they don't really change that much. They are who they are. Your wiring is kind of your wiring. You may fake it until you can no longer fake it, but I think fundamentally people are people. It's my opinion.
Do you have some experience with evaluate people after they do an
Yes,
stressing
PST,
job?
yeah.
Because we for example, we send people to the Antarctica by 1 year or 2 years, and we think that we need to develop some instruments to measure the way that the status of
The impact.
the impact.
I don't think you need to develop an instrument. I have something I'll show you. And it's global, and it's written in multiple languages. It's called axiology. It looks at how a person views people, structure, and their environment. It's an EQ assessment.
Okay.
And that does change with people. That changes with people. And when they start ranking themselves very, very low on the vector scale, like I don't matter, my life is terrible, I'd be better off dead, you got a problem. Most people that are healthy emotionally will rate themselves very equally to their job, to their family, to their life, to the world. So most healthy know that if they're healthy, they can go serve the world. An unhealthy person puts themselves so small and the world so big that they're insignificant. I can show you what I have and you can say I like it, I don't like it. It's very powerful, and you can look at how people's behavior changes from who they naturally are to their work environment. So if I'm a slow person, I walk slow, I talk slow, I work slow, and you put me in a crazy fast environment, I can only fake that for maybe 6 months to a year. And then I get sick. Have you ever been in a job where you had to fake it? Anybody in this room? Where you kind of had to fake it? And what happens is your body responds in stress. Or you start smoking, or you start drinking, or you start eating. But like we're all wired a certain way. Our neurological pathways in our brain are wired a certain way. And if we're healthy adults, we have if somebody knew me at 18, they still would say I'm the same way at 55. Maybe I've grown a few wrinkles, but I'm the same way. People don't really change that much. So when you're looking at your jobs, you have very important jobs in that company: air traffic controller, mechanic, pilot, other life imperative roles. It's really important to define what does success look like and who does a person need to be. What does their emotional intelligence need to be? How methodical and organized do they need to be? What's their ability to handle stress and pressure? What does that need to be? And you could start matching, this is what the job needs, and this is why this young 24-year-old or 17-year-old is a perfect fit, because they're naturally a fit for that job. And how you can test this is pick your top best performers as mechanics. Pick your top best performers as pilots. Pick your top best performers as air traffic controllers. Assess them and look at the common denominators for intelligence, for ability to handle stress and pressure, for their problem solving, and you'll start to see the components of success. And if you recruit people and put them in a job where same components of success, the likelihood of them being happier longer is stronger. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. All right, so we're running out of time. So this is everything we just talked about. What is the intellectual quotient it takes for them to learn the job? How smart do they need to be? What's their frontal lobe? Are they a person who thinks very fast, solves problems very fast, or are they very slow? It's the complexity. If I am a quick critical thinker and you put me in a job that is boring, I'm out. I'll quit. I'll be bored. But if you put a slow thinker in a job that's too hard for them to learn, then they'll quit and they'll go away as a failure because they couldn't make it in the job. So you want to match their intellectual capacity with the complexity of the job. You want to match their character. You're about, say, helping people, protecting and serving, right? So far, that's kind of what I'm hearing as the Air Force. You want people who want to protect and serve. It's the same people who might want to be police officers, or the same people who might want to work for the National. Do you have a National Guard, or is that you guys? Okay, so you want people who are attracted to go do that kind of work, even if protecting and serve means do cool software that the Air Force can use. And then emotional is how I handle stress, pressure, how I handle criticism, how I handle failing, how I handle going to war. Can I handle it or not? 3 components of long-term performance and people staying in jobs and being happy. So the intellectual quotient is, do they have the ability? Do they have the mental acuity? Can they do the work? Emotional is, what impression will they leave on people? Do they fit in? Will they uphold our values? Can they career path? If they can't handle the stress, they'll defect. They'll take an easier job. Character is, will they do what we need them to do even when we're not looking? Will they cut corners? Will they exceed our expectations or meet them? And what's it going to take for me to manage and coach them? I've had so many good candidates not get, because what it was going to take for the manager to coach them would have taken all the energy out of the manager, and the manager wasn't a good coach. And then when you're interviewing, I have a whole process for the regular interview, how to know how they've made decisions and what they want out of their career. And then we have behavioral interviewing, which asks questions about proactivity, about stress, about what they have done to overcome adversity. So you can have structured interview, in-depth interviewing, interview, but they're all different patterns. And you may want to look at, do you need to improve your interviewing process? And we're gonna pass this because you're gonna get the handouts. But this just tells you what behavioral interviewing is. And this is about assessment. I want to talk to you about this. This is assessing success behaviors. Who do you have in the jobs that's successful, and what are their behaviors? So one of the things you can do is create interview questions for the people that you believe are doing very well, and then interview them and start to compile the kind of responses you got. And now you know, when you're interviewing new candidates, what do you want them to hear? What do you want them to tell you that's similar to the people you had in the job? Personality assessment is more of how they respond on the job. Skills are, skills. Can they do mechanic work? Can they do algebra? Can they do math? Can they do programming? Attitudes and values is very important for your Air Force. Do they perceive what's happening around them? Do they appreciate it, or do they not appreciate it? Do they welcome it, or do they run away from it? I think this is going to be important for you, and I think this is going to be important for you. And then this is more of for coaching and training and developing the communication, the work style, how compatible they are. When you know your people, you have a better idea of what it's going to take to keep them and how to put programs in that they'll like. And this is just what I was talking about with the neural pathways, how it all works together. All human beings, I don't care where they are, and where they live, if they're in Antarctica, Chile, the US, they're all made the same way. We're all the same. We have frontal lobe, we have structural brain, we have our cortex, we have our amygdala, and the brain, how it responds affects people's performance. And this is kind of how it looks. When you have people who can't handle it, it's about emotional balance. They don't like what you're doing. It's about a lack of connection to your mission. And their behaviors are how they handle life, and their competencies are what they can do. When it's all together, it's a whole package of a person. And I want to go over a few retention strategies. We already talked about hiring, so we're not going to do that anymore. What's your value proposition as an employer? We talked a little bit about that. You don't have one. You're not doing any marketing. But you have it, you just use it for PR. But how can you turn it into a value proposition so these young people coming out of college or coming out of school will choose to work for you? And it has to be written for them. What's in it for them to come and join the military, to join the Air Force? Why would they say yes? How do you find out? You talk to and do those stay interviews, those retention interviews I talked about earlier, and you start to get nuggets from people. People work here because of this, because of this, because of this, and you put that in your recruiting campaign. And then you have to develop a long-term recruiting strategy. How are you going to find people next year? How are you going to find people in 3 years? And then what are you going to do to mentor and coach people that are in their 20s to stay and grow till they're in their late 20s, and the ones that are in their late 20s to stay and grow till they're in their 30s? What do they need mentoring and coaching in? Who's the best coach and mentor for them? Is it somebody from HR, or is it department? And how will you match the right mentor or coach to the right new young person? So do you have a mentoring and coaching program? Sort of. Sounds like training, but not really coaching and mentoring. For example, so is it Simone? So it would be mentoring and coaching would be the supervisor says to the new young person, when I started, I always worked out and did 28 sit-ups every day, and I went running 2 miles every day, and that's how I handled the stress. It's not about how to do the job, it's how to handle the job. Like human development is what I mean by coaching and mentoring. It's, if you don't have that kind of program, it's not that hard to put one in, but you have to coach others to do that. They're just looking right in front of them and how do we get this work done? They're not really all that concerned with, is everybody happy here? Say it again. Right. Yeah, that's right. So that's the piece you can add to it. You can have brown bag lunches. Do you have like the theory brown bag lunch in Chile? Everybody brings a sack lunch, and they learn. They sit around a table and they talk about, this is how I got promoted, and this is how I handled that job. You could, if you're going to use assessments, you can find out, like, let's say Javier has one way of learning, but what's your name? Ernesto has another way of learning. Well, then I have to speak one way to Javier and a different way to Ernesto. That's really good training for the new managers, so the manager knows how do I be more than just somebody to tell me what to do. So the job of a manager, if you want to have a talent strategy, is much more complicated. And then how do we get more people to say yes to us in the beginning? Time is up. Can I go a little extra or no? Do they have somewhere to be? You guys okay keeping going? Okay. So the old reality, the way, because you said it earlier, the old reality is people need jobs. Machines, capital, geography are our competitive advantage. Better talent makes some difference. Jobs are scarce. Employees are loyal and jobs are secure. People accept the standard package. This is 80 years old, 60 years old, 40 years old. This is 21st century. We need people, and we need the right people. Talented people are our competitive advantage. Better people makes all the difference. Talented people are scarce. People are mobile and their commitment is short term, so how do we make their commitment longer? And people demand so much more. So you could say, okay, I buy that, I agree. So then the next question is, so what are we going to do about it, which is where you guys started. Tell us what we need to do about it. So it's training your managers. It starts with a cultural mindset shift, change. It's like Google is calling it transformation. So it's transforming the mindset of managers through a change management program. The old mindset is a vague notion that people are our most important asset. HR is responsible for management of people. 2-day succession planning helps people learn to be better leaders. And I work with the people I inherit. The new mindset is I have a deep conviction that better talent leads to better performance, leads to a better company. All managers are accountable for developing their people. And talent management is a central part of how we run our company. And I take bold action to and develop my people. So I don't know if you have anything like this right now, but the balanced measurement system for how to evaluate your managers starts with the vision and the mission and the values for the enterprise, and then for that department. So you would work with your manager, your mechanic manager, whoever's the head. What title would they have? Lieutenant or something like that?
We have a supervisor, an NCO supervisor, that normally is a master chief.
Okay, so Master Chief has to create his or her own vision, mission, and values for that department. And they have to be attached to the overall of the mission vision for the Air Force. And then what's their strategy? And then they work with you to look at, well, how is our work designed? Or is there something about the way our work is designed that's causing extra stress? Are there things that we have done and that we're doing that we've always done for 80 years and we're doing it wrong because we haven't improved? What's the cost that it costs us to achieve quality? Do we have the right people in the right place doing the right work at the right time? So then we look at culture. Is the organization delivering? Are we delivering on our values? Is the quality of service timely, expert, responsible, coordinated? Are we doing what we say we're doing? And what's our partnership between our employees and our manager? Are they bought into how they're being to the performance? This all links to performance management, all of it. If people are committed to what the purpose is, and they're the right people, and they can handle the stress, they'll be much happier in the job. So there's a lot of parts. Financial, does the organization have the money to do what we need to do? Do you need to invest in new equipment? Do you need to invest in a better quality assurance so that things aren't happening so last minute? Do you need to have extra people on that team? I don't know. I'm making it up because I'm all the way over here and you're all the way over there. Leadership. How effective and skilled are our managers and leaders? Are they doing the right work? Is their span of control appropriate and effective? If your supervisor is just worried about output, but not about the people, they may be part of the problem, like what Javier said. So you asked about improving retention. I think it's interesting that I have jets in a lot of my stuff. So people want work to be streamlined, and they want it to be meaningful. When you survey your people in your departments, you want to ask, what are the things that you're doing that you think could be done faster, better, and more efficient? Especially if you have a lot of 20-something years old, they see things that we can't see. So have you heard of Uber? Okay, Uber was created by 20-something-year-olds, not a 50-year-old. We have an old 50-year-old, 60, 70-year-old taxi system in the U.S. Uber's taking everybody by storm. Some young person in the Air Force might say, you know, this process is 27 steps. This process could be 6 steps, and it would eliminate a lot of stress. Could that make a difference? That's why you survey them and you talk to them. So this is what people tell us they want. Work-life balance. They want to know they have time for their family. They want to know you care about them as people. They want some flexibility. They want personal growth and development. They want to feel like they're making a difference. This is you. You guys have a socially responsible organization. They want education, and they want to know that when you give them rewards, they're meaningful. It's what we talked about earlier with the Employee of the Month award. So there's 5 different families of retention. There's environmental. This is your plant ergonomic? Do you care about them stretching and making sure that their body's not getting cramped up doing the work, like the mechanics? Do you have the proper desks? Do you have the proper chairs? Do you have the proper setting and lights so that people can do great work and not be, with these shining lights that are glaring? Find out, ask people. Relationship is all about, are they treated as individuals? Are they trained in a manner that works for them? Are they coached? Are they guided? Do you care about them as people? Where do they want to go in the future? Support. Do you need technology to help them get more work done? Do they need extra people to help them get work done? Do you need to eliminate old, worn out, bureaucratic processes that are in their way? Growth, this is about personal, professional growth. Pardon me?
In the organization too, with the process.
Yes. And then compensation, just so you know, compensation came up last as the least important. Compensation's kind of like a starter. Like, yeah, you have to pay me a fair wage. But what I is to know that I'm working in a healthy environment, that I get along with my boss, and that I have a good relationship with people in HR, that there's support in place, that there's some place for me to go. And money and compensation is not just about money. Compensation could mean benefits. It could mean that you help pay for additional tuition for college. It could mean that I get time off for good behavior. So, employers that want to have a talent strategy must value their people, allow meaningful employee contributions and participation. If all you do is go back and each of you survey 20 people, you'll learn more than you learned in this 2 hours. And you'll be able to implement. If each of you, that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 data points. What do you like about working here? What don't you like? What would you improve if you could? Provide competitive pay, but not outstanding. Keep learning and development as a priority, very important. Pay attention to why people are leaving and what they're saying about working for the Air Force. All work should make sense and be efficient for the 21st century. Treat people with respect. Train your managers to treat people with respect. Keep employees in the know about what's going on, where you're headed, what you're doing. Hire people who fit the Air Force. Hire people who protect and serve. Hire people who can handle stress for stressful jobs. So, we went 10 minutes over, but before we complete, I want to find out from you what your biggest takeaway was for spending the last hour and a half with me. Whoever wants to go first. Yeah, you go last.
Maggie, I think I speak for all that it was a great lecture. I take a lot of tips. Actually, I will survey my people.
Good.
I think that the survey that you will provide later, email, will help to understand, to make a strategy that actually I don't have. Maybe if that works, I can sell the idea
Good.
to the higher.
Great. So the key for you is to find out the negative impact of not having a strategy, and that's how you're going to be able to sell it. Like if you had 50 more people applying every time you had an opening, which are better people. And if you could hire better people, how would the Air Force improve? Good, great, thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thanks, you're welcome. Who else? I need to hear from everybody. I think we want to pass that.
Bueno, en lo personal, bueno, hay muchos ejemplos que se pueden llevar a cabo. Por ejemplo, el comunicar esta gran misión que tiene la institución hasta esa persona que vimos en el ejemplo que puede solamente estar recibiendo llamados telefónicos. Entonces,
Good.
y cómo, además de agregar al trabajo del cómo hacer, es el cómo enfrentarlo.
Mhm.
Y eso va a significar que a estos supervisores habrá que entrenarlos para poder englobar tanto esta inteligencia que tiene el ser humano más la inteligencia emocional de la persona y así llevar a cabo las grandes ideas
Awesome.
y las planificaciones que se van dando a través de las diversas tareas que debe cumplir cada una de las personas dentro de la organización. Muy excelente la...
Thank you. Can you put all that on LinkedIn? Okay, great. How about Ernesto?
Creo que sobre lo que dijo Luis de que la gente se va por el estrés que tenemos, creo haberme percatado de que se produce porque porque la gente enseñar es lo que tiene que hacer, pero no por cómo desarrollarse muchas veces a lo mejor en otro ámbito dentro de la institución, sino que estamos más preocupados de la instrucción técnica que tiene que recibir y no cómo desenvolverse en en el trabajo, en la vida diaria en general, dentro de la Fuerza Aérea.
Yeah, so you're all, all of you that have spoke already really understand that it's the whole picture. It's the whole person. If you want, if you be engaged in their job, pay attention to the whole picture. So good. I delivered my message. Okay, how about you?
Ok, en mi caso me gustaría mucho que nuestros jefes, nuestros big boss, hubiesen escuchado esta serie
Oh, they're
de
gonna hear that.
recomendaciones para poder implementarlo a corto plazo en nuestra organización. ¿Ya? Parto con Ernesto que para mí nosotros siempre nos hemos fijado en los aspectos que hay que hacer en el día a día y no preocuparnos de los aspectos emocionales que afectan a la persona para mantenerse en el trabajo. Porque no solamente el salario es nuestra motivación, sino que hay factores humanos día a día y eso nos llevan a querer mirar a otras organizaciones para trabajar en otro lugar que creemos que es mejor, pero no necesariamente lo va a hacer. Esa es mi apreciación.
Yeah, great, great. Thank you. And I can watch the video, right? Isn't that why you took the video so they can show it to their bosses? You're going to get a copy of the video. Good. Good. Well, did they pay for you to come here? Did your bosses pay for you to come here, or did you pay for you to come here? So they invested for you to come here to come back with information. Okay.
Well, I have two big feelings. I'm very happy and for your exposition has been an awesome exposition. I learned a lot of with you, but also I feel sad because I realize the huge job that I have to do for make our Air Force a little bit better. You gave us so much tips and so much things that we do in the wrong way. So, so it has been very clarified and helped me. So, congratulations and thank you very much.
So you're welcome. And what Simone said is start in a pilot. Do one department, one group of people, and implement one thing. Like maybe manager training and the manager gets to understand who his people really are. But it is overwhelming to think, oh my God, we have to go back and change an 83 or 85-year-old enterprise. Start with one area, or each of you do one thing. You do the recruitment brand, you do the surveying of the people, you do the management training. I mean, 5 people can actually go make a big difference because you're all together here. So you're welcome. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure to speak with you today, and you're a great interpreter. Do you have any takeaways? Yeah. Good. Thank you. Thanks. All right, well, should I take all this stuff off?